My name is Geoff and I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about the new UKTI Education team, who we are, what we do, and how we might be able to help the UK education sector in your efforts to be successful overseas. The team's actually pretty new. We've only been in existence for about 6 months, and we were set up really with a number of specific objectives. It's our job to try to help UK education and training organisations to win business overseas. That's the overall kind of UKTI role anyway, but we're obviously specifically focused around the education sector. And what's actually new this time in terms of the government's approach to supporting the sector is that our primary focus as a team is going to be on helping the sector to win high value, more strategic level education opportunities around the world. And typically these will be potentially quite complex. They will invariably benefit from a government-to-government approach, potentially with partnerships across the industry and across the sector. And what we're really focused on are opportunities that, in aggregate, are looking to deliver value of round about £100 million or more. Now, in terms of education business, there aren't that many individual opportunities that actually exist around that level. So we're very pragmatic in the way that we look at how we support the sector, and we recognise that, for example, it may well be the case that a number of specific opportunities jointly amounting to something like that value would absolutely warrant our involvement and our engagement. And we see it as our role to actually draw together the best of the UK sector to develop and to make a coordinated response to these opportunities around the world, across different parts of the sector, and, as I've said before, developing, where appropriate, consortia of different organisations and suppliers to provide a coordinated UK response. So I'll go on in a little bit to talk about other opportunities that exist in education, because obviously there's an enormous wealth of business out there for SMEs at the lower levels, and we're absolutely not ignoring those at all. But certainly for the main purpose of this small team is around these higher value opportunities where some form of kind of government to government engagement we feel is likely to add value. So I'll talk about the key aims of the team as they've been set for us. We're obviously in the business of promoting the UK's offer around the world. The UK is terrifically well positioned in many, many countries around the world. UK education has a fantastic reputation. In places that we visit, it's interesting to recognise, I think, that there are some elements of the sector which are better understood and known about and recognised than others. For example, just in Malaysia before Christmas, UK higher education sector has been very successful there. We've got campuses of the likes of the University of Nottingham and Heriot-Watt, etc. But for example, our vocational training offer is not as well known in Malaysia, so we've got some work to do there, I think, to try and raise the profile of that sector, where I think the UK can be fantastically successful. So we're generally promoting UK excellence around the world. We've got some targets that we've got to seek to achieve. We've got to help the sector to win something like £1 billion of new business by 2015. Now that's quite challenging within this particular sector, I think. We've got a flying start with a programme which is currently underway in Saudi Arabia, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, and where the UK has been very successful already, and we hope to develop that into even more success. But we'll be working hard to deliver that level of value, that level of new business by 2015. I should say at this point, I think, that in terms of the kind of values that we're talking about here, we are focused as an organisation, as a team in UKTI Education on, if you like, exporting the UK offer overseas. we are not primarily focused on encouraging more overseas students to come here. Of course, that's a great aspiration. There are other colleagues within government who are working in that particular space, but that is not our primary role. We're in the business of helping the representative organisations, the individual institutions and colleges, the education suppliers, such as the people here, to be more successful in markets overseas. So that's our short-term objective, our short-term target in terms of value, and we've got round about £3 billion worth of business that we are seeking to help the UK sector to achieve by about 2020. So that's quite an ambitious target, I think, for us, but one that we believe is absolutely achievable with the additional profile that we hope to be able to give to the UK sector in some of our key markets. As I mentioned earlier, the team's been in existence now, not for very long, only for about 6 months or so, but one of our first jobs was to try to identify where we, as a government team, could actually add most value. There's obviously a fantastic amount of business being done day to day by UK education providers and suppliers all the way around the world. And the last thing that we want to do as an organisation is to add a level of bureaucracy to that, to business which is already happening fantastically well already. But what we are keen to do is to try to focus on those markets, those specific education opportunities where, as the government, working in close partnership with the UK education sector, we think we can actually make a difference and actually help to win significant strategic programs. So there are certain markets where we're active already. As I mentioned already, in Saudi Arabia. We're doing some work in Colombia, which I'll speak about in a moment as well. But beyond that, we've identified that the countries that you see represented on the map look to us to be the areas where we as a government organisation can add most value to help the UK education sector win significant business in the short to medium term. Some of that will be around programs that governments have announced around, let's say, college building programs, or governments who are wanting to increase, let's say, English language provision in their particular countries. Others will be where, for example, we can see that slightly further away opportunities are likely to develop, let's say, around a country which is just developing a new oil and gas field, for example, and thereby offering potentially enormous opportunities around education and training. So those are our focus countries for the time being. That list will not, I'm sure, be the list that we'll be looking at in 2 years' time. The world will change, and we will be responsive, obviously, to those changes and to respond to new opportunities as they become apparent to us, and in helping us to make sure we focus where we should be. We're particularly interested to keep in contact with you as the sector, as well as our own embassies and high commissions around the world, to keep us notified of developing opportunities as they're coming up, so that we can focus our effort where it's likely to be of most value. I'll just spend a few minutes now to talk about almost a matrix type approach that we're taking to the way that we operate. Primarily, we're looking to operate geographically around specific opportunities in particular markets or groups of markets. But we also recognise that the UK has fantastic expertise across a number of sub-sectors within education as a whole. So just at the moment, we have developed a working group around English language training. We've developed a working group around oil and gas education and training, with a view to constructing almost like a UK offer which we can roll out around the world where there are specific opportunities that offer can help to meet. So we've got a large proportion of those two sectors represented on our working groups, and we're utilising those teams, those working groups, to, as I say, develop offers that can be put in front of potential customers and partners around the world. We also see great value as we go forward in both teacher training and ed tech as well. And we're going to be developing an approach for those two additional sectors over the coming months. There could easily be more, I think, as well. But those are the ones that we're focused on just at this moment. I'll move ahead just a little bit now. I've got a couple of instances to illustrate how we're working. My colleague Andrew Price is actually looking after a visiting delegation at the moment, and he's been working closely on a lot of the Saudi opportunity. But I'll move through this and just talk firstly about Colombia, and then come back to Saudi if Andrew comes back. But these two examples between them, I think, give you an indication of the way that we're intending to operate and the way that we're intending to support the sector. In March or April last year, David Willits, our higher education minister, visited Mexico and Colombia. And in Colombia, he met with not only central government, but also representatives from the state of Antioquia province. And what came out of that visit was the identification that actually the Colombian government and regionally within Colombia are actually looking for help and support to deliver a number of quite ambitious education programs. And these, to us, look like exactly the kind of project and program where we, as the UKTI Education team, can actually add value. As you can see on the slide there, the Minister's visit highlighted a number of specific areas of opportunity around English language, oil and gas. Also, in space, the Colombian government has an aspiration for satellite capability, which could include quite a significant training and education element, and in vocational training as well. I'll just say a few words about the English language opportunity, where the governor of Antioquia province, who I think is widely thought of as a future presidential candidate and very influential, has a very ambitious plan to create 80 education parks right across the Antioquia province. And these will be in very rural areas, and the objective of these will be to raise standards of education, and he has a particular focus around English language, where he believes that the key to actually improving the lot of many of these areas is around education more broadly, and particularly around an ability to speak English. So what we are currently doing, working with the government of Antioquia and working with a group of UK English language providers, is to try to develop a pilot scheme that we intend to roll out within the next couple of months to trial an English language project in a relatively small number of these education parks, with a view to then rolling that project out right the way across the 80 in the programme. And there is significant interest also from the central government in Colombia about this programme, and so we can see that this regional approach within one specific state could easily lead to a nationwide, Colombia-wide programme for English language, which would obviously be fantastically beneficial to the UK. And the reason that we in UKTI Education have become involved is that the governor in Antioquia is very keen to have HMG involvement in the programme, and I think we've added value in terms of bringing together some of the UK providers who are best placed to be able to respond to the particular requirements of Antioquia to move ahead with this particular programme. So that gives you an indication just in Colombia, for example, of how we're supporting the sector, and hopefully in a small way helping to get a particular programme rolling, which we hope will develop into a very much more significant opportunity for the UK. So I hope I've covered the points there in terms of at the bottom. Raising awareness, yes, exactly. We've used our English language working group to raise the profile of this particular opportunity. A two-way programme. Yes, I mean, just to give you an indication of this particular opportunity, that it's not always very easy. I've visited two of the potential locations for these education parks, and as our embassy in Bogota told me, that I was the first British government official ever to visit some of these very, very remote locations. So these are pretty remote places. So that of itself, as you can imagine, gives a number of potential challenges in terms of how these programs are going to be delivered. Coordinating our English language working group, supporting the companies who are looking for the business, and indeed developing that broader relationship on a government-to-government basis, not least to ensure that we are well connected with the government in Bogota, so that we get early warning and indication of how their education programs are developing, such that we can hopefully position the UK as well as possible to be able to respond to those opportunities. Now, I think, seeing as my colleague Andrew seems to have been delayed, I will just speak to you a few minutes about the opportunity that we're also pursuing in Saudi Arabia, which is another good example, I think, of the way that UKTI Education can add value to the UK sector and act in some ways almost as point man for the opportunity in terms of the negotiation and engagement with the Saudis. What we've got here is probably, I think, in our view, the biggest, the most ambitious education reform programme that we're currently engaged with around the world. There aren't very many programmes of this scale and nature, and as you can see from the slide, it's an absolutely massive college building programme right the way across Saudi Arabia, and as the Saudi Arabian government themselves say, the largest TVET upgrade anywhere in the world. So the Saudi Arabian government have been very keen to try and get the best that's on offer from around the world to help them actually develop and to move ahead with this programme. And we've created what we call a high value opportunity to actually help to prosecute this and to bring the sector in behind us. And we've constructed a virtual team ourselves at the centre of that, obviously utilising our colleagues in the embassy in Riyadh, plus other colleagues within government to help us deliver this coordinated response to the Saudi Arabian government. And this really is major. There's over, in the programme in its entirety, there are over 100 colleges. And already, last year, UK providers won round about £375 million worth of business, colleges valued at roughly £75 million or so each in the first tranche, the first wave of this college programme to actually come to tender. The second wave is currently underway at the moment. Bids were submitted just before Christmas, and the Saudi Arabian government is currently evaluating and assessing those bids. And as you can see there, we've undertaken a range of activities in support of this particular opportunity. Most recently, we arranged for the UK Skills Minister, Matthew Hancock MP, to visit on a very short visit last week to Saudi Arabia to meet some of the key stakeholders in this programme, to let them know the importance of this programme to the UK and how committed the UK government is to supporting the UK bidders who have bid into this latest phase of the programme. And as we were told at the time during that visit, the UK was the only country who had actually bothered to send a minister in support of this particular programme, and so we're very hopeful that this, when the results of the Phase 2 programme come out, that the UK will have been at least as successful as we were in Phase 1 in winning a significant proportion of that particular business. So again, I hope that gives you an indication at least of the kind of support that we as UKTI Education can bring, including where necessary, bringing in ministerial help to actually provide support to the sector to help to win that business. I've been speaking up until now pretty much about the high value business which exists out there, but as I've already mentioned, there's a very, very significant proportion of business, export business that exists around the world in the education sector that absolutely does not fall into this high value description. And some of you may in the past have had support from some of my former colleagues in UKTI in terms of the help that they can give the smaller and medium-sized providers in their export attempts overseas. So I just want to make it very, very clear that that support absolutely still exists to those kind of providers from the UK government. We've got this additional focus on high-value business, but we are very committed to continuing support SMEs in your efforts to work overseas. So the ways in which we will seek to do that will be around the involvement of SMEs where it's appropriate to do so in high-value opportunity pieces of work. So there could well be an element of activity within a much broader programme that's absolutely relevant to an SME somewhere in that supply chain. So we'll continue to look out for those kind of opportunities. We'll still continue to run the kind of support at exhibitions, at trade events, trade missions, both out of the UK and inwards in support of education business. Indeed, I was just speaking to one of my UKTI colleagues just before this session. She's from Port of Spain in Trinidad, and there will be a major education trade mission to Trinidad and to either the Bahamas or Barbados. It's one of the two. Anyway, nice place to go either way, I think. Happening in a month or two's time. So again, if you feel that there are opportunities for you in the Caribbean, that might be an event in which you might think about taking part. And again, we'll absolutely continue to support those kind of activities. And if you're new to export, if you're just thinking about perhaps dipping your toe in the export market and haven't done so before, UKTI has always provided a range of services to help you make that initial first step. We've got a network around the UK of trade advisors who are regionally based around the UK, who will quite often be your first port of call in terms of discussions around export opportunities, how to get involved in export if you haven't done so before. And if that's something that will be of interest to you, please come and have a word. I'll be delighted to put you in touch with your regional ITA. UKTI continues to run activities such as Passport to Export, which is a scheme which introduces more companies into the world of export. As you've probably heard the Prime Minister and Dr. Vince Cable, the Secretary of State for Business, say on many occasions, they're very, very keen indeed to try to increase the numbers of British companies active in the export market. So we're providing support where we can to actually help that to happen. Some of that support can even be financial. If we look at the acronym there, TAP, the Trade Access Programme, for example, in Malaysia before Christmas, there were grants available to small companies going out to exhibit at an exhibition actually organised by the BET organisers in Kuala Lumpur. And again, a number of those companies who'd got significant support told me that they would not have been able to think about going to an event like that without that kind of government contribution. So again, that kind of support is still there. OMIS is an acronym that some of you may be familiar with, the Overseas Management Introduction Service. It's kind of a way in which we can provide you with sort of in-market surveys and information about the opportunities that might exist and how to access them in a particular overseas market. And again, this work is actually delivered by our embassies and high commissions around the world. And of course, finally, we act within UKTI Education really as your gateway into the rest of HMG support that exists, into the rest of the Department for Business, into the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. We have a secondee as part of our team from the FCO, from the Department for International Development, where we're increasingly finding that we're working together, where we have complementary objectives around the world. Of course, as you would expect, the Department for Education, and indeed our colleagues in the British Council, who can be a very, very valuable resource around the world with fantastic access into education ministries. So I'll close by just trying to bring a few of these threads together. The creation of UKTI Education is a significant commitment to supporting the UK in being successful overseas and in taking a more strategic approach to that kind of activity. And it was very gratifying to hear Dominic Savage, who is the chairman of BISA, speak at the reception for the overseas delegates on Sunday evening this week, to say that he felt that this was a fantastic new development in terms of the way the British government is actually looking to support this type of sector. So it's got great support from the companies and organisations who will benefit. There are some markets, it may not be every market around the world, where this new strategic approach is likely to be relevant. But in those countries where perhaps there isn't that kind of high level of business, there is still significant support available from not only colleagues in high commissions and embassies, but also through the kind of events and activities which we can run out of the UK. So the big final message, I think, really is the fact that the UK government is looking to support the UK education sector in a comprehensive, coordinated way, not only focused around high-value business, which we see as being a great opportunity for us, but also right the way throughout the sector. I'd like to thank you very much indeed for your attention. Thank you very much.